Well, I don't know about you guys. I'm a little bit disoriented after all that galloping up and down the West Coast. I think it's time for us to just calm down and center ourselves a little bit.
Yes, let's talk about the Central Division, and we'll begin with the bottom.
Yeah, well, the bottom, I think, clearly is the Chicago Blackhawks. A little bit more optimism this year. I mean, of course, they have Connor Bedard. That's going to be excellent. But they did add a few pieces to help him out in the scoring department. What do we think about the additions of Tyler Bertuzzi and Teuvo Teravainen? I mean, these are not elite scorers, but surely they can pitch in a little bit.
Yeah, that bottom's looking a little bit sexier now with these additions, but I still think this team is far from competing.
They have a new captain in Nick Foligno, and hopefully they'll get a healthy year out of Taylor Hall.
Yeah, that was the big acquisition last season. Everybody was excited to see what he was going to do with Connor Bedard. It was a short-lived experiment, unfortunately, as Taylor Hall has battled quite a few injuries in the last few years.
Now, Bedard did have a very good regular season last year. Of course, he did get injured, but what do you guys think he's going to put up this year?
So we're going to assume that he plays a full season, of course.
Just say 82 games he gets.
I think he gets to 90 this year, and it's one step away from the next year that will be 100. I'm giving you back-to-back predictions.
I think he challenges 40 goals and 85 points.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, he certainly has that talent level. I'm going to say he's going to hover around a point a game.
Okay, conservative but fair.
And what do you guys think about their acquisition in net?
Oh, I love the addition of Laurent Brossoit. I think that he is a guy who could be a starting caliber goalie if given the chance. And I think with Peter Mrazek to compete with, I'm not saying Mrazek isn't that good, but I think that he could wrestle that job away at some point this year.
Yeah, I'm sort of looking at it. Maybe it could end up like a 50-50 tandem, which I think would be good for this team. I mean, they don't need a number one starter this year. They just need somebody to be serviceable in net on any given night.
Yeah, I think both of those goalies are going to see a lot of pucks. It'll be nice to have each other there for support.
And they do still have Seth Jones back there. Hopefully he has a bit of a bounce back year. They've got Luke Richardson behind the bench. We'll see what he can get out of these guys.
Yeah, so it's not going to be a great year, I don't think, in Chicago, but there is a lot of optimism on the horizon for this team.
Now let's talk about the newest team in the NHL, the Utah Hockey Club. Now this is a new team. They are not taking over the history of the Arizona Coyotes.
Hopefully not, because that was a tire fire. Not a lot to remember from that franchise. So fresh start. Don't have a name yet. I don't really like Hockey Club, but I think this team actually looks pretty decent on paper.
Yeah, I mean, they came in with a big splash. They have acquired Mikhail Sergachev. This is a guy, I think, who is a bona fide number one offensive defenseman. He is going to make an immediate impact on this team. And they also have Sean Durzi. He is entering the stage of his career where I think we could start to realize his full potential. We're not quite sure what that potential is, but I think it's a decent 1-2 punch.
Sure, and they do have a nice collection of younger forwards.
Yeah, so obviously the headliner is Clayton Keller. I mean, this is a point-per-game winger, dynamic star in the league. But I like what's shaping up on their second line. And you look at the end of last season when there was some hope with the franchise, and it was guys like Logan Cooley and Dylan Gunther were really starting to emerge. And I think they're going to take another step forward this season.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Barrett Hayton, too. Him and Cooley can end up being a nice punch, a nice mix of offensive talent from Cooley and defensive acumen from Barrett Hayton.
They've got the vets there, Lawson Krause and Machelli. They can contribute.
Well, Machelli's, I mean, he's also a young forward. I could see him becoming a guy maybe scores 50 to 60 points in the league. I'm not sure what he brings on the other end of the ice, but yeah, I mean, just another guy that you can plug in there and get some points. So they can probably score some goals this year.
And what about the goaltending?
Well, I mean, Connor Ingram was a nice story last year, but he could be challenged by Vomelka, I think. Both goalies have shown themselves to be NHL caliber goalies, so it'll be interesting to see how that ends up shaking down.
Yeah, I could see it being yet another platoon. Goalies are just so weird and hard to predict, but it's nice to have two guys that you can trust to get in there for NHL quality starts.
Yeah, there sure is a lot of excitement for this team as they enter into their first year. I know at the rink there is still some obstructed seats. Hopefully they'll get a discount for those. But I love the owner. He made the concessions really cheap.
Yeah, so if you're sitting in bad seats, at least you can drink cheap beer.
Yeah, I know some people are down on this team. I think they're going to wash the stink off from the previous franchise. And if I'm Minnesota or St. Louis, I've got my eyes on the rear view mirror because I think this team is coming up fast.
Well, then let's talk about the Minnesota Wild, of course, led by Kirill Kaprizov, who had 96 points last year.
Yeah, he is the straw that stirs the drink in Minnesota. But I'm just wondering where is the rest of the offense going to come from? Because if you look up and down this lineup and you can see the damage being done by the cap hell that they're in, they don't have the depth to fill out their roster properly. So I'm worried about where the scoring's coming from.
Yeah, I mean, they really need Matt Boldy and Marco Rossi to take steps forward. I mean, Boldy had a good year, but I don't think he's reached his full potential. Same with Rossi. They need these guys to be bona fide number one offensive talents.
I did really like what I saw from Joel Eriksson-Ek last year, career year. Can he build on that, I wonder?
Yeah, not a lot of center depth after him, right?
No, it looks like Ryan Hartman's going to be lining up with Kaprizov to start the year, but I could see that changing if it doesn't click early.
And what about their blue line?
Well, I think Brock Faber was a revelation.
He
last
sure
year.
was.
Yeah, I mean, he's entering his sophomore season. Can he build on it, or is he going to face the ever-present sophomore jinx that a lot of players have to deal with in their sophomore
I
years?
say we'll call it a push. I think that he maintains a similar level, which is great. And the captain, Jared Spurgeon, is back. That will help.
Huge part of that team.
But again, same issues that they have at forward. If you look at the depth, oh boy, it gets rough after that. Jonas Brodin needs to stay healthy this year. Seems like he never can, though.
And what about in net? Gustafsson had a bit of a setback last year.
He sure did. I mean, the previous year he was excellent. Lights out. Last year, very disappointing year. So it'll be interesting to see which Philip Gustafsson we get this year.
And they bring back Marc-Andre Fleury.
Yeah, and it could be a big year for Marc-Andre Fleury. He needs 19 starts to become number 2 all-time behind Martin Brodeur in starts for a career in the NHL, which is an impressive stat.
Yeah, but they do have young goaltending stud Jesper Wallstedt waiting in the wings, and this is a team that wants to make a playoff run, so if Fleury doesn't have it early, they might not get him that number because they're going to want to be competitive.
Yeah, and I don't think Fleury will push for it either. I mean, he's
a good team guy.
He's totally a team guy, so it's not going to be about him, it's going to be about the team.
And it will be the first full season behind the bench for John Hines. He's got his work cut out for him if this team is going to make the playoffs. And whatever you do, John, do not make Billy Guerin angry.
Yeah, so let's move on then to the St. Louis Blues. And similarly, we have a full season of Drew Bannister after this Blues moved on from Craig Berube. So a bit of a new era here. Obviously, lots of top talent on that top line. Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, Pavel Buchnevich. Very good top line. But I think there's some questions around the depth of this team.
Yeah, well, a funny thing, you mentioned Pavel Buchnevich. Looks like they're going to try to spread things around because maybe the depth isn't there. He's going to be centering their second line, which is a bit of an experiment. But Braden Shen is also playing with him, so he's a guy that can help out on draws. But yeah, I question where the offense is going to come from because once you get past Thomas and Cairo, not a lot of high-end scoring talent.
Yeah, Jake Neighbors had a very good rookie season. Can he repeat it? Because I'm not too sure how much left in the tank Shen has.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Neighbors had 27 goals. High shooting percentage, though. So can he hit 30? I think there's some big questions there.
Now, they did bring in Holloway, right? That was the big offseason sheet that they offered to Edmonton. Yes, that's right.
Obviously, the addition of Philip Broberg on the blue line is also a big one for them because they have kind of an aging D-core, so they're going to need that youth infusion.
Yeah, what do we think of their blue line?
Well, I mean, it took a big hit with the loss of Torrey Krug. He will be out for the season. So tough break there for St. Louis. Obviously, they have Justin Falk, who's, a guy who can play some heavy minutes. They would love to see Scott Perunovich step up into a more prominent role, but I'm not sure if he's there for that.
Still got Parenko.
Yeah, Colton Parayko is still a beast on the blue line. Nick Leddy, though, he's getting up there as well. I don't know if he can handle the big minutes anymore. And for some reason, they brought in Ryan Suter. I think he showed last year in Dallas. He might not be an NHL player anymore.
Yeah, a lot of heavy minutes on that body for sure.
Now, their goalie combination last season was actually pretty good.
Yeah, 4th in the NHL in GAA. Jordan Binnington, Joel Hofer, they will be back for another season. Binnington, notoriously inconsistent in net. So Joel Hofer, maybe he is ready for a larger workload and can take some of the heavy minutes off of Binnington's load.
Yeah, I don't love that combination, and I think that Binnington's such a volatile player. I just see things going sideways for St. Louis this year.
Yeah, it could go sideways. I still kind of consider this team a bubble team.
Okay, so let's kick it up a notch here to a team that's probably more firmly going to be in a playoff race, the Winnipeg Jets, John. You excited?
Oh, I couldn't say I'm excited even if I tried. I mean, it was such a disappointing playoff exit for us. We just folded against the Colorado Avalanche in the first round, and largely the same group returning. I think we know what to expect from our top guns: Mark Scheifele, Josh Morrissey, Kyle Connor, Nikolai Ehlers. They're all going to do more or less the same. So I think if we're going to see any change from this team, it's got to come internally. So are there any prospects for some internal growth?
Well, I think the one guy, not a prospect, but a young forward who struggled with health, and that's Gabriel Velarde. When healthy, he was an excellent player for you guys last year. He was close to a point a game, but his whole career has been marred by back injuries and other various bumps and bruises. So I don't know.
Another youngster who battled the injury bug was Cole Perfetti. If he could stay healthy for the season, that would be a huge boost.
Yeah, for sure. I think he does have a lot of offensive pop. So whether or not he can just stay in the lineup and contribute, big question there as well.
Yeah, another young guy in the blue line, I think, that was supposed to be a big contributor, but now he's injured and things are a little bit murky. Ville Heinola. So he got hurt at the start of preseason. I know you guys were expecting big things from him, John.
Yes, it's been a hope for a number of years now. He was a first-round draft pick, but it has never quite panned out. And every year it seems like he's going to be the next big thing and never quite arrives. So, yeah, again, some questions there. If we're looking at the situation in net, Connor Hellebuck, of course, we know what to expect from him. Last year, he had Lauren Brossoit as a backup who was very serviceable. This year, Capo Kakkonen, not sure is quite the same caliber of goaltender as Brossoit was.
Yeah, I kind of think this is a slight downgrade for Winnipeg.
I think more than slight. And, the big problem with Hellebuck last year is he kind of broke down because they played him too many minutes. And if they're going to be a bubble team, maybe slightly above the bubble, they're going to be playing competitive games all the way through the year. Were they going to be able to spell Hellebuck better this year? Or are we going to have the same problem again?
Yes, very good question. I think another question is behind the bench, Scott Arniel is brought in to replace the retiring Rick Bowness. So it kind of feels like more of the same for Jets fans. So I guess the question is, should Arniel try and reform this team? Can he? Just a lot of questions as to what to expect from this team's play style throughout the next year.
Yeah, they outperformed expectations last year. I think this year they should be able to get enough wins to peg down a playoff spot, but a bit of an enigma, this team.
Let's talk about a team that was a bit of a surprise last season, the Nashville Predators. We talked a lot about them during our summer recap show. The Barry Trotz era has begun.
Yeah, well, they were red hot down the stretch to get that playoff spot. Arguably even more red hot this offseason as they got 2 40-goal scorers signed long-term.
Yeah, I mean, Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault. These are guys who can bring some real offensive pop to a couple lines. So I would say offense is now a priority for this team.
That's right. Last year, Philip Forsberg had an incredible season, and Ryan O'Reilly helped prove some of the doubters wrong.
Yeah, a revival for him as he got 69 points. That's huge. If he could repeat that this year, watch out for the Nashville Predators offense.
Yeah, so on the one hand, offense is looking great, but the team's old bedrock was their defense. I think it's a little thinner than it's been in a long time.
Well, they did bring in Brady Shea, though.
Yes, that is a nice add. Of course, they have Robin Josi, who is one of the elite defensemen
Awesome.
in the NHL. But not a ton of depth after that, I would say.
No, but Music City is known for producing big hits, and Jeremy Lauzon and Luke Shen, the new age Bash brothers on the blue line, bring some nice sandpaper back there.
And I mean, they do have some young guys. Tommy Novak is an excellent young centerman. And Luke Evangelista and Philip Tomasino are some young guys they might be able to lean on for a little extra production this year.
They did sign their big goaltender. Well, I shouldn't say big. He's a short man.
Relatively
but
small,
to
yeah.
a big contract. UC Saros is back in net.
Yeah, UC Saros locked up long-term. Of course, they had to move on from Askarov, who did not like that signing at all. Thought he could be the next big thing in Nashville. So they bring another backup goalie.
Scott Wedgwood, he's in there. How many starts is he going to get, do you think?
Well, I think because Saros is a smaller goalie, you probably want to keep his starts down, especially if you have playoff run aspirations. So maybe like a 2/3, 1/3 split.
Yeah, that sounds about right. They do want to keep Saros fresh for the playoffs for sure, though.
I am really curious to see if this team can meet the expectations for a playoff spot.
Yeah, lots of buzz in Nashville. I think they're a shoo-in for a playoff spot, and I think they have their eyes on a bigger prize.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of excitement around this team for sure.
All right, let's turn our direction to the real cup contenders in this division, and we'll start the Rocky Mountain Colorado Avalanche.
Yes, I mean, this team boasts The defending Hart Trophy winner, Nathan McKinnon, I mean, there is really an argument to be made that he is the best player in the world, an absolute beast.
Yeah, what did he put up last year?
140 points.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean that's Connor McDavid type stuff, right?
Yeah.
And he has his partner in crime, Mikko Rantanen, very important player for the Avs. We'll see if they can lock him up long term.
Yeah, big important year for him as he's looking to get extended. But I think, if you're talking about best players in the world, Cale Makar is also got to be in that conversation. He is absolutely dynamite on the back end. And when you have two of the best players in the world on your team, you cannot be counted out.
Yeah, and some potential excellent news. They could be getting their captain back in Gabriel Landeskog. This guy could be coming back in the first quarter of this year. That would be a huge boon for them.
He has missed a lot of time.
He hasn't played since they won the Cup.
Yeah. So what can we expect from him coming back? Big questions there, but it's not going to hurt.
That's right, and he's not the only question up front.
No, they've got a few more question marks. Obviously, the enigmatic Valerie Nichushkin, he is currently suspended, eligible to return in mid-November. There's no doubting this man's hockey talent. It's just everything else that leaves questions.
2 years in a row.
Yeah, hopefully the third time is the charm for him because this is probably his last chance in Colorado. And Arturi Lehkonen, another really solid contributor who is starting the year hurt. He should be back fairly early on in the year, though.
He'll be getting a full year out of Casey Middlestat.
Yeah, I do wonder how he's going to fill in as that second-line center. I mean, obviously, Kadri, I think, was the perfect fit there on their Stanley Cup winning team. Casey Middlestat, he had an okay end of the regular season, was pretty good in the playoffs, almost hit a point per game in the playoffs. So which Middlestat are we going to get in this regular season? If they could get the playoff version, that would be great for them.
They did pay a heavy price to get him, though, giving up Owen Byram. Now, the D-core, anyway, your top four is still pretty solid, though. You've got Devon Tays, Sammy Girard is still solid when healthy, and Josh Manson is a pretty decent number 4 defenseman. I just wonder about their bottom pairing, a little bit less experience there.
And how about their goaltending?
Well, they're still rolling with Alex Georgiev as their number 1. I think they played him a little bit too much last season. So I would like to see them manage his minutes a bit more. I don't think he qualifies as a sort of number 1 workhorse type goalie in the NHL. So as a backup, they have Mark.
Well, my favorite goaltender name in the NHL, Justus Annunen.
Yes.
I butchered that horribly, but hopefully he has a great year and I'll know his name really well by next season.
Yeah, but I do think some questions. I mean, this is a team, for even when they won the Stanley Cup, did not roll with sort of a number 1 elite type goalie. So is this still a recipe for success for the Colorado Avalanche? I'm really not so sure.
All joking aside with Annunen, though, he had really good numbers in the starts that he did get.
Yes, I think the window is still wide open for the Colorado Avalanche, and I would be surprised if they didn't challenge for the division crown.
Yes, but I do think for Division Crown, we kind of all agree on the team we think is likely to be there. The Dallas Stars.
Yeah, Big D.
Big D. This is a team, they are absolutely gross on paper. I mean, where do we want to begin with them?
Well, what I love about this team is the balance between the veterans and the young guys. They've still got the grizzled veterans, guys like Tyler Seguin, Matt Duchene, who was a great ad last year. He's back. Of course, Captain Jamie Benn is a load to play against. So these kinds of guys are still producing. I know some of them are a little overpaid, but combine that with the young guys.
Yes, that's right. I mean, Wyatt Johnson, what does he have in store this year? He's made a lot of progression, and it's getting stanky in here. Yes. Logan Stankoven.
Yeah, Logan Stankoven. I mean, he fit right in, right out of the gate. I'm so excited to see what this kid can do in his second full year with the Dallas Stars. Obviously, Joe Pavelski is gone. Jason Robertson, though, he is a bona fide superstar.
Yeah, no, he took a little bit of a step back last year.
Little bit of a step back. Yeah, from big 100 step points back to 80 is a big step back.
Big step back, but I think I expect him to wind up somewhere in the middle of those two seasons, hopefully for Dallas anyways. On the back end, Miro Heiskanen leading the way. Great two-way defenseman. He can play all sorts of roles back there. Who else they got? They got any young guys?
Well, yeah, Thomas Harley emerged last season, and I think he's got at least a few more notches to go. So would be remiss if we didn't mention another forward, though, that we missed out on, Rupe Hintz.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
When healthy, he's excellent two-way player.
Yes,
he
is.
Flies up and down the ice. He's so
sure
fun
does.
to watch.
He does, yeah.
And on D, I know we love Essa Lindell.
Yes, I mean, big body back there. He can really grind players down when they enter the offensive zone.
Perfect defensive defenseman, good for penalty killing. Yeah, he's just so steady and never really gets talked about.
Between the pipes,
Yes,
We
Jake
all
the
love
Snake Ottinger.
We love Jake Ottinger.
Bit of a down year for him, though, actually. If you look at the statistics, he was actually in the lower tier of goalies, but the talent is there. And we got to remember, he's still young. And a lot of great young goalies have struggled in their early years. I remember Carey Price really didn't hit his stride till his mid-20s, and I see a lot of Carey Price and Jake Ottinger.
And they have brought in a new backup.
They sure did. I mean, Casey DeSmith, serviceable backup. I think he's a guy who's got a lot of NHL experience on playoff teams as well. I do wonder how much Dallas will be managing Ottinger's minutes throughout the regular season.
Yeah, you want to keep him fresh.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he's a young stud. I think he can handle a 60-game workload if necessary.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of reasons people are picking this team to win the Stanley Cup for this season.
All right, guys, I think that about wraps up the Western Conference. What do you say we take a little break?